Hi everyone, welcome to a new set of playthrough videos of a game called Order and Opportunity: Making of the Post-Cold War World Order. This is currently on the P500 list with the GMT Games. And so here we are, right at the start of the game. Without further discussion, let's just jump right in. There's a bit of a pre-game setup to finish up here. And that is, so at the game start, the map is seeded with a random set of so-called world events. So these represent sort of historical events of the period, crises, wars, other consequential events of the period. And as part of this random draw, I also drew the 9/11 world event. So this is different from the rest of the world events in that when it's drawn, it occurs immediately, and we go through a short procedure. So let's finish that one and then continue the game normally. So it's got 3 steps. The first one is the US must increase the terror threat level by +2. This is indicated here in the US home space by moving the terror threat marker from level 1 to level 3 on the influence track of the US home space. Next up on the card, we've got conduct terror threat check. So a terror threat check is a die roll check, rolling versus the current level of terror threat in the United States, which is 3. So the US would have to roll 4 or higher to pass this check. If they fail, they lose a victory point. Victory points are quite hard to come by, so it's really a serious situation. Luckily, though, the rule is you can spend resources for die roll modifiers before you roll. So the US player starting here with 7 resources decides to spend 3 resources to avoid the check altogether. It becomes an auto success. So that's expensive, though, down to 4 resources. And then thirdly, US may place 1 US military influence, a green cube, or 1 NATO military influence anywhere. Let's see, looking at the board quickly, I can see 2 options. So one could be to go here into the Balkans, this space over here. It's got 1 so-called opportunity token, which can be resolved by using cubes, i.e. using military influence. So US could increase the existing NATO influence there to 2, and therefore be in the position to immediately resolve an opportunity. So opportunities represent sort of smaller scale events, occurrences, in a word, opportunities that pop up also randomly around the map. So that's one option the US could do, but I think the second, possibly even more attractive option is to go and address straight away this world event over here in the Asia Pacific space called Flashpoint South China Sea. And the way to resolve these world events is to acquire a necessary level of influence in the space and then use some cards to resolve the world event and score victory points, 2 victory points, for instance, from this card as indicated here. And so the US will take the step towards resolving it by increasing their military influence there by 1, as afforded by the 9/11 world event. So thematically speaking, I suppose 9/11 has occurred and the US is has conducted investigations and found that some sort of a terror group here in Asia Pacific may be responsible for the attack in this version of the history as we are playing it in the game this time. So with that, we've done 9/11, we discard it and proceed into the US turn proper. US happens to be here in the order of play, the first so-called power or player side to act. And so we grab the US order of play cylinder, move it down here onto the action phase track, which shows the 5 steps of the action phase, or 5 segments. The first segment is to draw a new development event card. So we essentially, thematically speaking, look at what are the latest developments around the world. One of them has already been drawn. Now we draw another one and see which one occurs first. So the previously drawn card will occur. The newly drawn card will come up next during the upcoming EU turn. So, and the card that occurs now is the Arab Spring. Well, Arab Spring in this game is a card that we place here onto the map, and it basically begins to now track the level of tension in the spaces in Africa and in the Middle East. There are no tension markers yet. Tension markers would be these red markers over here. There is no tension at the moment, so Arab Spring is sort of, the potentiality of it is now there, but it's not quite yet occurring. We will return to it when it becomes more relevant. Next segment in the US action phase is to check whether the US is able to resolve any existing opportunities on the map. Well, we already talked about this one here that could have been a possibility, but US decided otherwise. There is no other opportunity here on the map at the moment in the game start that the US can resolve, so we pass to the next segment, which is the commands segment. This is right at the heart of a player turn, because this is where you get to do actions. So for this purpose, let's look into the US hand window. The US has drawn a starting hand of 5 cards, shown here, the top row, and now taking a so-called command involves nominating a suit. The US will nominate the military suit, and I can nominate a suit and play as many cards as I like or can from that suit. Well, I can play 2. Let's do that. Play these cards, send them onto the map here. So normally I could use these cards to take actions corresponding to the card's suit, for instance, or I could trigger one of the event options. There's one event option, sometimes there can be even 2. But this time, since we now positioned ourselves to resolve the Flashpoint South China Sea World event, we will now complete the process according to the plan and simply discard and thereby, so to speak, use these 2 cards to resolve the world event. It's quite costly because we can't do anything else during our turn. On the other hand, we now get rid of this world event and score the 2 victory points as shown on the card. So we discard that card and we increase the US victory point marker from 5 to 7. So, and that already is the end of the US commands segment. We move on to the second to last segment, which is planning. Planning again sends us to the US hand window. So here, as I mentioned, in the top row you've got the US hand of cards, 3 cards remaining. Here at the bottom row is the cards that the US may acquire and, so to speak, build into their deck. So there's a small deck building element here, and the US may now have a look at the card here. One card they could now acquire, and usually what you think about here is do I want a card of a particular suit because I want to be strong in that suit, or do I want a card with a particular event option that I find particularly useful? Well, I find this one here quite useful, so let me acquire that. I can also get rid of my of one card in my hand, in my discard pile or in my draw deck, in order to keep my deck, so to speak, lean and mean. And let's get rid of the rules-based order. Who needs that anyway? And so our deck stays functional. And then finally the last segment is simply to draw your hand back to 5 cards. And so we've drawn a colorful collection of different suits. For the next turn we are nicely positioned to play at least 2 economic suit cards here for the US. So that already concludes the US turn, and next up we return the cylinder there. Next up is the EU. That's in the next video. Thanks for watching.